Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. Today, we're really zeroing in on sustainable food systems in Europe,
Okay.
and specifically the role regions play. It's fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. It's a hot topic.
It is.
Yeah.
And, we're going behind the scenes of a high-level policy roundtable that happened during EU Regions Week in Brussels.
Oh, wow.
So this is exciting stuff. We're going to unpack a treasure trove of insights from leading experts, regional leaders, and innovative projects.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And it's all focused on making these food systems truly sustainable.
That's great. So, like bringing that farm to fork concept closer to home, which is a big focus in the EU right now.
Exactly. And the roundtable report we're looking at today is like a roadmap. It highlights practical examples, challenges, solutions.
And giving us a glimpse into the future.
Yeah, the future of European agriculture.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to see how these big ideas and policies actually translate into action.
On the ground, yeah.
On the ground. That's where regions come in. They're the key players in making these sustainable food systems a reality. And the roundtable really hammered home this point, that integrated public policies are urgently needed across Europe.
Yeah, I can see why.
To effectively address both climate change and food sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
These two issues are deeply intertwined.
Yeah, you can't really address one without the other.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And the roundtable participants were all about finding those practical solutions.
Mm-hmm.
They dove deep into the EU's farm-to-fork strategy.
Okay.
And they really explored how it can be implemented effectively to align food systems with the EU's climate goals.
Ambitious goals.
Very ambitious.
Oh.
And who better to kick things off than Maria Jose Sanz?
Okay.
She was the roundtable moderator. And she's also the coordinator of the MAIA project.
The MAIA project, I've heard that name. It's doing some really interesting work, right?
Absolutely. And Maria Jose brought up a crucial issue right off the bat, data and initiative fragmentation.
Okay, so like everybody's kind of working in silos.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like ships passing in the night.
Yeah.
They're not effectively sharing knowledge or best practices.
Right.
And that hinders progress.
Makes sense. It's like everyone's working on the same puzzle, but they've got different pieces and no clear picture to guide them.
Perfect analogy.
Uh-huh.
That's where the MAIA project steps in. They're creating a connectivity hub,
Okay.
a central platform for sharing information and tools between all these different climate change projects.
So breaking down those silos, fostering collaboration.
Exactly. But they didn't stop there. Maria Jose also highlighted MAIA's Solutions Marketplace.
Solutions Marketplace.
It's a one-stop shop where small and medium-sized enterprises can access existing innovative solutions.
Oh, that's good because they don't always have the resources to,
To reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And they even showcased a tool called VocTractor.
VocTractor.
It's designed to extract key information from those dense technical documents.
Oh, that's helpful.
Imagine a superpowered research assistant.
I think we could all use one of those, especially these days.
For sure. Anything that helps us get to those key insights faster is a win. But let's move on from the EU level and go to a regional perspective.
Okay, sounds good.
Maria Rosa Onofre from CCDR Alentejo focused on the realities on the ground in the Alentejo region of Portugal,
Okay.
which is a region particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change.
So zooming in from the big picture to a specific region, what kind of challenges are they facing?
Maria Rosa didn't sugarcoat things. She explained that Alentejo is one of the areas in Europe most susceptible to desertification.
Desertification? Wow.
Rising temperatures, declining rainfall, a real threat to their agricultural sector, which is a vital part of their economy and way of life.
So a direct link between climate change and food security.
Exactly. A real-world example of those interconnected challenges.
Right.
But here's the inspiring part. Alentejo isn't just sitting back and watching this unfold. They were the first organization in Portugal to develop a regional climate strategy.
Wow, that's proactive.
Very proactive.
It shows that even at the regional level, there's a real commitment to taking action.
Absolutely. And this regional strategy isn't just a bunch of vague promises. It includes specific actions, like promoting regenerative agriculture to restore soil health and biodiversity, implementing smart water resource management solutions to address water scarcity,
Right.
and moving towards a circular economy to reduce waste and maximize resource efficiency.
It sounds like they're taking a really holistic approach, considering all the different aspects.
You got it. And Maria Rosa really emphasized that they're not just focusing on the environmental aspects, they're prioritizing the social impacts as well.
Of course, yeah. Making sure that everyone benefits.
Ensuring that vulnerable communities are protected and that everyone benefits from these changes.
That's key. Making sure sustainability isn't just for the privileged few.
Absolutely. But putting these ambitious plans into action requires resources.
Yeah, of course.
And Maria Rosa was very upfront about the funding hurdles they face, highlighting the need for innovative solutions like public-private partnerships.
That's a common thread we see across so many sustainability initiatives. Funding is often the bottleneck.
You hit the nail on the head. Funding is often the bottleneck, even when there's a clear vision and a strong will to act. But let's shift gears slightly and hear from Nelson Ikane.
Okay.
He presented the work of the Beatles Project.
Beatles.
Yeah, it's an EU-funded initiative focused on transitioning to climate-smart agriculture, or CSA.
Climate-smart agriculture. What exactly does that entail?
It's all about developing and implementing agricultural practices that are productive and resilient to climate change, while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions and contributing to food security.
So a more holistic and integrated approach.
Precisely. But Nelson pointed out that there are often significant barriers to implementing these practices. He called them lock-ins.
Lock-ins.
These are barriers that prevent action despite the will to implement sustainable agricultural practices. They include things like institutional inertia and regional disparities in policy implementation.
So it's not just about developing those new technologies and practices. It's also about overcoming the obstacles to putting them into action.
Exactly. And the Beatles Project is tackling these challenges head-on with a really unique approach: co-creation.
Co-creation.
They've brought together 18 partners from various sectors across 10 European countries, academics, industry experts, policymakers,
Wow.
all working together to find solutions that are practical, scalable, and relevant to different contexts.
That's a real melting pot of perspectives.
It is. They believe that by tapping into these diverse viewpoints, they can develop solutions that are more robust and effective. And they're not just talking theory. They're implementing real-world use cases in various EU countries.
So putting those ideas to the test.
Putting those ideas to the test in the field and seeing what actually works on the ground. They're running pilot projects in wheat farming in Lithuania, pig farming in Denmark, and organic dairy farming in Germany.
Oh, wow. That's great. So they're really gathering data and refining their approach.
You got it. They're not just coming up with ideas in a lab. They're getting their hands dirty and showing that sustainable agriculture can be a reality.
I like their style.
And it gets even better. They're not just looking at the environmental benefits. They're using life cycle assessments to evaluate the economic impacts of these different agricultural practices.
That's essential. You have to make it profitable if you want farmers to adopt those practices.
Absolutely. And they're going even further by exploring innovative business models.
Okay.
To support this large-scale transition to climate-smart agriculture.
Interesting.
Thinking about how to create the right economic incentives to make it all work.
So it's a multi-pronged approach, addressing all the different dimensions of this challenge.
Precisely. Now let's switch gears again and hear from Clara Duzal, who focused on sustainable food system pathways.
Pathways. Is this about mapping out different routes to a more sustainable future?
You got it. She brought a global perspective to the discussion, highlighting the work of the FABLE Consortium.
FABLE?
It's a global collaborative effort with independent research teams from 24 countries.
24 countries.
5 of which are EU members, by the way: Denmark, Finland, Germany, Greece, and Sweden. And they all come together to develop pathways towards sustainable food systems.
A global network of researchers. That's impressive. What's their approach?
Well, they've developed this amazing tool called the FABLE Calculator. It's a sophisticated computer model that analyzes food production, consumption, and related policies.
So like a simulator for sustainable food systems.
You got it. It's like having a crystal ball.
That's fascinating.
They can test out various policy options and see how changes in factors like diet or agricultural practices impact land use, food security, and greenhouse gas emissions.
That's incredibly valuable for policymakers.
It takes a lot of the guesswork out of the equation. And in a recent exercise, they explored 3 distinct pathways: the current path, which is basically business as usual; the national commitment pathways, which considers what happens if existing policies are fully implemented; and the global sustainability pathway.
The global sustainability pathway.
Which explores the actions needed to achieve global sustainability targets.
So a range of scenarios from the status quo to a more ambitious future.
Exactly. And one projection that stood out, regardless of the pathway, was that all EU countries are expected to reduce animal product consumption.
Okay.
And shift towards more plant-based diets by 2050.
Wow. That's a significant dietary shift. It would have ripple effects throughout the entire food system.
Huge implications for environmental sustainability and human health. It's a glimpse into a future where plant-based diets become much more mainstream.
It's fascinating to think about how those global trends will play out at the regional and local level.
Right. It's a reminder that these changes are interconnected across different scales. Now let's hear from our final speaker, Nikolai Pushkarev, who painted a truly ambitious picture, a climate-neutral European Union by 2050.
A climate-neutral EU bold vision.
And what that would mean for the agriculture, forestry, and food sectors. It's not just about reducing emissions, though that's a big part of it.
Of course.
Nikolai's scenario demonstrated how the land use sector could contribute to a whole range of sustainability goals: biodiversity protection, animal welfare, human health, and economic viability.
So it's a truly integrated approach.
Exactly. Now, it's important to remember that this scenario is a tool for discussion and exploration, not a prediction set in stone.
Right.
But it's incredibly insightful to see how these goals could be achieved. So, what were some of the key elements of this climate-neutral scenario? Well, it projected a 60% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture and agricultural peatlands by 2045.
60%? That's massive. How did they envision achieving that?
3 main factors: a reduction in livestock production, which we know is a major source of emissions, the implementation of various mitigation technologies to reduce the environmental footprint of farming, and a significant decrease in the overall livestock population in the EU.
So a combination of technological advancements, changes in agricultural practices, and potentially some shifts in dietary patterns.
Exactly. And Nikolai also highlighted the importance of restoring agricultural peatlands. You see, peatlands, despite only representing a small percentage of agricultural land, are responsible for a disproportionate amount of emissions.
Oh, I see. They're like carbon sinks gone wrong.
Precisely. So rehabilitating them by replanting 80% of these areas could have a significant impact on reaching those climate neutrality goals.
Interesting. So it's all about understanding those nuances.
Absolutely. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Remember, this roundtable wasn't just a talking shop. It also included a workshop where participants brainstormed concrete solutions to the challenges they identified.
Putting those insights into action. I'm eager to hear what came out of those brainstorming sessions. So they didn't just talk, they actually came up with ideas.
Yeah, the roundtable set the stage, and the workshop was where they brainstormed those practical proposals, to really put those ideas into action.
Okay.
They focused on a few things: promoting local products, encouraging behavior changes towards more sustainable choices, developing new business models, and importantly, streamlining current EU and national policies.
To better address the needs of different regions.
Yeah, make sure they actually work on the ground.
Makes sense, yeah.
And it wasn't just the folks in Brussels,
Oh, right, because it was hybrid.
It was a hybrid event. So regional representatives from all over Europe joined in online.
Great.
Yeah, contributing those diverse perspectives and local knowledge. Really valuable. So what were some of the hot topics?
Well, one key area was promoting local products and helping consumers make more sustainable choices.
Right, so not just telling people what to eat.
No, it's about giving them information and making those sustainable options more appealing.
Make it easier, make it fun.
Exactly. Another major theme was the need for new business models that support sustainable food practices.
Makes sense.
So they explored things like community-supported agriculture, where consumers invest directly in local farms.
Oh, that's cool. Sharing the risks and the rewards.
Right. It gives farmers more security, and consumers have a say in how their food is grown. And of course, let's not forget about the policy challenges.
Yeah, we talked about those.
A big focus was streamlining EU and national policies, making them work better for sustainable food systems at the regional level.
Because one size doesn't fit all, right?
Exactly. Different regions have different needs. So they discuss things like targeted funding, simplified regulations that don't stifle innovation, and more collaboration between governments.
So creating an environment that really empowers those regions.
Yes, to take the lead in building these sustainable food systems. And remember, this workshop wasn't just a one-time thing.
Right.
It was a starting point. The MAIA project is taking these insights and recommendations and using them to inform their work.
It's great they're collaborating with others.
Working with other EU projects, regional authorities, and stakeholders to turn those ideas into reality.
It's all about building a movement, a network of people working together.
Yeah, a network across Europe, all dedicated to a more sustainable food future. And it shows that change is possible when people work together.
It's inspiring. But let's bring this back to our listener for a minute.
Okay.
Why should they care about all this talk of sustainable food systems?
Well, it's easy to get lost in the big picture, but this is about all of us. The choices we make about food have a ripple effect. It goes beyond our plates.
It's about those everyday actions.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful things we can do is become more conscious consumers.
Conscious consumers. What does that look like?
It's about thinking about where your food comes from, how it was produced, the impact it has on the environment, communities, and your health.
So thinking beyond just, does this taste good?
Exactly. So, for example, choosing locally sourced produce whenever you can.
That makes a big difference, right?
It supports your regional food economy and reduces the carbon footprint. It all makes a difference.
It does. But it can feel a bit overwhelming, like, can my choices really make a difference?
I get that. But think about it. If millions of people make those choices, it adds up.
It's the ripple effect.
Exactly. Your small actions inspire others, and eventually it becomes a wave. And don't forget about your voice. You can advocate for policies that support sustainable food systems. Talk to your friends and family, support organizations making a difference.
Be an active citizen. Use your voice.
Exactly. And it's not about being perfect. It's about progress. Every step you take, big or small, brings us closer to a more sustainable and equitable food system.
That's a great point. This deep dive has been a real journey, hasn't it? From those policy discussions to the cultural implications.
It has. And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to learn about sustainable food systems. But one thing is clear. It's not just a distant issue. It affects all of us every day.
And the choices we make can shape a more sustainable future.
So to our listeners out there, think about what sustainable food systems mean to you, and think about how you can contribute to that more sustainable future.
One bite at a time.
So we've talked about policy, practical solutions, even those big cultural shifts.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
It has been. And, one thing is clear. Regions are really leading the charge when it comes to sustainable food systems.
Absolutely. Turning those big ideas into action.
Exactly. But I feel like there's another piece we haven't fully explored yet.
What's that?
The role of research and innovation.
Ah, yes. The engine of progress.
It is. Throughout the roundtable and workshop, everyone kept emphasizing the need for continuous research and innovation.
Makes sense, right? We need new technologies, new practices, new ways of doing things.
We need to push those boundaries, find those creative solutions.
And it's not just scientists in labs. It's about everyone working together.
Researchers, farmers, policymakers.
Businesses, even consumers, yeah.
Bringing everyone to the table, sharing that knowledge.
Exactly. And this research isn't just about, producing more food or cutting emissions.
Right.
It's also about things like improving the quality of our food, making it more nutritious, enhancing biodiversity, taking care of animal welfare.
So it's that holistic approach again.
Exactly. Thinking about all those interconnected parts of the food system.
So what kind of research are they talking about?
Well, they mentioned developing new crop varieties that can handle climate change better.
That's crucial, yeah.
Exploring alternative protein sources, to reduce our reliance on animal agriculture.
That's a hot topic these days.
It is. And also things like precision farming techniques to make the most of our resources and minimize that environmental impact.
So using technology to create a food system that's not just sustainable, but healthier and more equitable.
Exactly. And it's exciting to see what's already happening. There's some brilliant work out there.
There really is. This deep dive has been amazing. It's really opened my eyes to all the complexities and possibilities of this movement.
Yeah, it's complex, but there's so much potential.
There is. And it's clear that this journey requires collaboration, innovation, and a willingness to think differently.
To embrace those new ways of doing things.
And as we've seen, it's a journey that involves all of us, from policymakers to consumers.
We all have a part to play in shaping that more sustainable and delicious future.
Absolutely. So, to our listeners, as you enjoy your next meal, take a moment to think about where that food came from.
Yeah, the journey it took.
The people who grew it, the resources involved, and the impact your choices have.
Let's all try to be more aware of what we're eating, support sustainable practices, reduce that food waste, and advocate for a food system that takes care of both people and the planet.
Well said. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those taste buds curious.
Bon appétit.